bridge and golf and more. It's the greatest recreation spot, and when you get there, you'll keep coming for more. You gotta take a dive on the water slides. Cardiac Canyon will give you a ride. Cherry Hill, the greatest fun spot you'll ever know. Cherry Hill, Cherry Hill, Hill. Cherry Hill, the greatest fun spot you'll ever know. Cherry Hill.
Just off the highway near Kaysville, the roots of the cherry trees run deep. The Lloyd family roots here run equally deep and strong. And in this 50th anniversary year at Cherry Hill, the Lloyds are celebrating the achievements of the past and looking forward to the next half-century. Charles Alfred Lloyd, or C.A. as he was known, bought the property in 1923. He named the orchard just a mere farm. But of course it was more than that. It was where he raised his family and built his dream home. When the Great Depression hit, he felt he had no choice but to sell the property, but there were no takers. Now, everyone is grateful that it didn't sell. When it came time to retire, C.A. Lloyd didn't need a surveyor to divide his property. Instead, he tossed a coin. 18 acres of the more fertile ground to the north going to the elder son. Grant, the younger son, took on the remaining 20 acres, deemed less fertile and tougher to work. That patch included 2 acres of mostly sand and anthills. But there, the Cherry Hill story began to grow along with the trees, the family, and new responsibilities. In those early days, Grant, the younger son, and his wife Mary Lou lived for summers and work in the orchard. He sold insurance to stay afloat and keep food on the table for 5 growing children and for a slew of growing dreams. Then came the widening of Highway 89. Highways, to be sure, are built with lots of sand. Grant had plenty for sale, no charge for the ants. The country was on the move as big cars and cheap gas helped send American families out of their neighborhoods and on the road. There was a big country to see, mom and dad up front and children snuggled together in the back of the station wagon, and maybe a tent or two strapped up top. That part of the American dream came home to Kaysville and the Lloyds, where in the early 60s, the sand money was used to build a gas station and restaurant on the spot where the sand used to be. Then in June of 1967, up in the orchard, a new campground was taking shape. 2 acres of ground was enough for 50 campsites at Crossroads Camping. Now a truly family-owned, family-run operation with Grant, Mary Lou, and the kids. The rate was $2.50 per night. And by 1969, all the cherries you could eat. The timing proved right, as thousands of families were stopping and staying and eating free cherries.
So I started advertising free cherries in season. Anybody that comes here to camp can have all the cherries they want to eat.
Truth is, the cherry orchard paid for itself in ways unexpected, even undreamed. Soon the number of campers had grown to over 20,000 over the summer months. That meant big changes at Crossroads Camping, including the name, now appropriately, Cherry Hill. More and more property was needed for campsites. Full hookups for campers and trailers were installed, as were more restrooms. The old farmhouse, built by C.A. Lloyd, was converted into a restaurant with a perfect name, the Pie Pantry. And yes, the menu includes plenty of cherry pie. The Lloyds are devout Mormons, always committed and ready to share with campers the history and message of their faith. From the beginning, volunteers from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints showed nightly movies to the guests in the Cherry Hill Outdoor Theater. On Sunday mornings, these same volunteers headed up a caravan to Temple Square in Salt Lake City, where the group watched the Mormon Tabernacle Choir television broadcast from reserved seating. Over the years, the Lloyds received many letters from folks who had joined the Mormon Church as a result of their Utah experience. Grant and Mary Lou included these letters in their book, Faith Blossoms at Cherry Hill. All news was good news until 1973. The Arab oil embargo struck. Gas availability declined and gas prices began to soar. At Cherry Hill, most customers traveled from out of state, often well beyond Utah. Grant saw the writing on the wall. Those station wagons and the families in them might just stay home. The business needed locals and local cash. Coincidentally, miniature golf was a national craze. So Grant and Mary Lou hit the road themselves, heading west on a fact-finding mission. They came back with $1,000 worth of plans for a miniature golf course. Good plans and good hands. Grant had both. He built the course himself, opening it for play in 1978, with massive castles and mountains calling players to meet the challenge. And they did, in droves. Golf and swimming. These are a couple of family favorites. More so when Grant built the two-flume water slide, 375 feet of it. By the early 1980s, this was not just a place for families. It was a place for family reunions, church socials, and group outings. With all that, local dollars and local people represented 60% of the business at Cherry Hill. And the cherry trees kept the place rich in its original flavor. After 30 years of imagining, creating, and building, Grant and Mary Lou could relax in their own success, including sons Bruce and Keith in their overall operations. The sons brought both imagination and business acumen to Cherry Hill, both still keen to hear Grant's limitless ideas and follow his experience. And that meant more attractions, more building, more reasons for people from all over the continent to enjoy the place and, of course, eat cherries. New additions in the 80s included a 6-station batting cage, a game room, followed by the biggest attraction yet. Development of the Cardiac Canyon River Run was, you might say, a big splash. This wild water ride thrilling and soaking adventurous patrons down and through the pratfalls of caverns, waterfalls, and sudden drops. The improvements and expansions over this decade inspired a key accolade as Trailer Life magazine recognized Cherry Hill as one of the best destination campgrounds in the United States. Cherry Hill had long since evolved even beyond its attractions, becoming equally known as both clean and safe, its atmosphere wholesome, the experience of it resonating deeply among families. Around here, there's always more to do, but eventually less to do for Grant and Mary Lou. The boys took over operations in the early 90s, Keith responding with a layout and design for a 40-foot, 3-mast pirate ship, the centerpiece for a shallow water playground, the Pirates Cove Activity Pool, a $200,000 project, was christened in 1994 with water cannons blasting. The new millennium brought more new attractions, including a second swimming pool, aero ball, and a 30-foot climbing wall simply called The Rock.
Well, we have added a lot of activities here. We like to have people have something to do when they come camping, so we've got miniature golf and batting cages, and we've got a full-blown water park, and we've got 235 campsites.
If you have a wild river, it stands to reason you should have a lazy one. In 2004, Bruce and Keith had a way to honor their father, and as they saw it, a perfect way. So, the Grants Gulch Lazy River was added, the flow passing along a newly created mining town, including a storefront sign announcing Mary Lou's Confectionery. Keith, the primary architect, added some special effects, notably 2 knuckle-headed miners who regularly blew up the place with wild results. The Grants Gulch Lazy River project took 18 months to complete and at a cost of $1.8 million, but it nearly doubled capacity at the water park, also adding 140 parking spaces, new changing rooms, and a snack bar. As it happened, honoring their parents was timely. Mary Lou passed on in 2005. Grant joined her a year later. Death may come to people, but never to legacies nor their ideas. So much of both not only remained, but grew.
Compensation has been far more than money.
The joy of sharing the gospel is a big part of the Lloyd legacy. Every Friday and Saturday night, Cherry Hill hosts a live concert featuring good, clean music. and church volunteers are on hand to visit and answer questions about the Mormon faith. Cherry Hill? Why not Scary Hill? Halloween has its own traditions, and there's no place like a fun place to create all things scary. In October, the miniature golf course hazards are transformed by monsters, vampires, and the ickiest of all, a giant black spider. The campsites are invaded by over 150 whimsical skeletons, best viewed from the safety of a tractor ride. And the pie pantry is filled with warm and welcoming aromas of hot chocolate, chili, and pumpkin pie. Still growing, still hands-on. In the past few years, new themes and fresh paint have brought some transformation to the waterslide area. New generations are always around the corner, always young, more and more visually and electronically minded. Special effects are required. The 6,000 square foot jungle maze came with sound effects and interactive elements. Prospectors Claude and Clyde might need some help panning for riches. A good effort might even turn up fossils or gems. The Junior Jungle Boats mark another recent and popular addition. The 2017 season comes with still more good stuff, including the Little Dipper water slides. All 4 of them set up side by side, inviting families and friends to race each other to the bottom. As you may gather from all this, Cherry Hill is very much like a never-ending story. But it proves to be something special, something that matches all that imagination, hard work, and enriched goodwill the Lloyd family brought and still brings here. They employ well over 200 people, about half of them lifeguards. They host 150,000 guests annually, those on average to include 20 family reunions per week.
We have families that are on their second, third generation of camping with us.
And there's more to the Lloyd family's growing legacy. Bruce and Keith have sons, Jared and Mitch, both working alongside their fathers, as their fathers worked alongside Grant and as Grant worked alongside CA. After 50 years, you might say Cherry Hill has been a place of both dramatic and constant change. But the simple formula for it all has endured throughout. Ideas, imagination, good planning, and hard work created Cherry Hill and sustained it. All these things to see and do, all these years creating something special, all those Lloyd family values that gave it life. The roots of cherry trees remain deep and strong here, songbirds in their branches competing with the unrestrained laughter of children. These days, they provide more shade than cherries, but blossoming faith and family hospitality endure. The Lloyds welcoming and entertaining guests just as they did 50 years ago. Family built, family owned. In good faith, all things seem possible. And all of it served up with a cherry on top.